Welcome back. So here we are at the fourth week. It's week 4, right, of the 10-week series. I thought I'd bring in a photograph that I found on the internet that I'd used for a posting for our group's Facebook site. It's that photo on the wall there. Can everyone see it? If you can't see it now, you can go check it out at the end of class. But it's a figure of a person sitting in meditation posture, and instead of a human head, they have this maelstrom of flames shooting out of their neck. And I thought this was a beautiful example of the kinds of things we discover when we go into the direct experience of being in the body. That's the degree to which things can come to when we let go of what we think the boundaries of our body are, the limits, the size, the shape, the color, the gender, the history, the identification of body. When we let go of all that conceptuality and actually feel how we really feel, we might find that there's this vacant galaxy inside our chest, or there's molten lava coming out of our ears, or there's a waterfall streaming down from our knees down to the bottom of our feet, that there's terrible fury in our chest, or deep sadness, or profound joy. These experiences we normally regard as special and rare, and certainly not part of my daily experience. There's a wide range of experience available to us just by being alive. But as long as we maintain a strong sense of identity and strong boundaries and strong sense of needing to protect ourselves, we inevitably just shut all that down, because our conceptual mind creates an image that we work so hard to maintain. And we can see how we do that by ourselves and also by how we relate to other people, maintaining our image with others, or how others reflect their image of us back to us, how we keep each other imprisoned in the way we see and speak to each other. After a while, we might realize that the person we're speaking to from our mind is really just a memory of some past experience we had of them, and the person standing in front of us is not actually reality. But these kinds of practices help us undo that habitual way of seeing the world and seeing ourselves. And it can really feel different. And sometimes it's terrifying and sometimes it's pleasant. But we can't get hung up by the emotional response we might have, because even our emotions, they're really so fleeting. They're not an accurate reflection of how things are all the time. So that's why I wanted to bring in that photograph. But related to that, the practice we're going to do tonight is an extension of the threefold breath, which I believe we did during the second week. And if you remember, that's when we brought our attention into the lower belly, the heart space, and then the throat. We're going to start with that practice, but go a little bit further into investigating the boundary on the edge of our body, particularly the part of our body that's resting on the ground. See, because so far we've investigated the experience inside this envelope of skin. And then we think, well, this is my journey, this is my life in this limited package, and I'm having this experience of discovery inside. And so there's a very centralized experience happening at this stage. And when we start to look at the boundaries of our body, we might see that we're not separate. Actually, there's no separation between us and what we normally regard as other, that we can't actually find a distinct, solid line of definition between our life and the life behind us, or beneath us, or outside of us. And it's a gentle practice we're going to do tonight. It's really just meant to investigate one part of the body. Is it really so separate from what's outside the body? And over time, that experience starts to have an effect on our way of relating to the world. the sense of disconnection from life that we might feel sometimes, the sense of separateness, the sense of warfare or conflict or distance. All of that we might come to see as an illusion. And it's a really powerful illusion because we all suffer because of it, right? There's loneliness, conflict, sadness, feeling like we don't know what the point is of our life. Things like this happen when we feel absolutely separate from reality. But maybe something is possible within our heart when we notice that we're actually just an aspect of what's all around us. And that might sound like a cute spiritual idea. Oh, I'm just part of this big world. We're all one. But what this experience is meant to do is to bring you, what the practice is meant to do is give you a direct experience. And so this first step is just to see what happens when we look at what we think is a boundary. So we'll start as we usually do by laying down. We're not going to tie our legs tonight, so just lay down, put something under your knees if you'd like, and when everyone's settled, we'll continue at that point. So as usual, just take a moment to let your awareness land within your body. Let your awareness come into this room. Just allow for a sinking to happen as if you were softening into the earth, noticing any areas that are holding on to resistance, letting the lower back soften and the back of the neck. And then checking your jaw, see if you're clenching, and then release it. Noticing how this automatically invites your neck and your shoulders to soften. There may even be a sense of softening the heart area. And then feeling the pelvic floor and releasing any clenched areas there. Noticing how this opens up the hips, the pelvis, the hamstrings, and the lower belly. And what I mean by opening up is that our awareness, our ability to feel and perceive increases, that we're able to sense those areas more. And in response, they might feel sensitive or vulnerable. And just take a moment to take stock of how you feel. How's your heart this evening? How are your thoughts? What is the quality of your mind? Just looking without judging, without analyzing. You might notice that just in the act of looking, in the act of investigating, there is an effect upon the mind. A sense of presence, a sense of being willing to be open, to connect with ourselves. And so, as we did before, to start with the lower belly, we bring our hands to rest just below our navel. And we breathe so that our diaphragm is relaxed and doing the breathing for us, meaning on the inhale, our tummy expands. That indicates we're using the diaphragm muscle. And when we exhale, it drops on its own. Feeling the expansion and the contraction here helps bring our attention to this part of the body. And on the inhale now, we can start by sensing any tension or any pressure or any experiences on the outer edge of the lower belly, so on the surface of the stomach, on the sides and behind, just noticing the boundaries there. And on the exhale, allowing for a sense of softening in these areas. Exhaling and letting go. Just like the envelope of a balloon relaxes as the air is let out of it, then the envelope of your skin, of your body, can relax just on the exhale. And then we can draw our awareness further towards the center of the lower belly, into that space halfway between your hands, where they're resting on the surface, and your sacrum, or your lower back. Just a couple of inches above the bony areas, above the spine or above the sacrum. You can ride the breath as you breathe into this area. And now we know from the cellular breathing that breathing consciously this way, we're drawing prana into this region, fresh life force energy, and with it comes our awareness, our ability to know and experience. So we breathe into it, drawing our attention there, and on the exhale, just look at the experience. What does it actually feel like in every moment to be at the center of the lower belly? What arises within that space? And then when you look again, what has dissolved within that space? If you get distracted, no problem. Just come back on the next breath. And now we're going to keep our attention in this area, but toward the back of the body now. So let your awareness explore your lower back, where you think there's a separation between your body and the ground beneath you. So the back edge of this lower belly region. When you inhale, you can imagine that the breath now is headed towards this boundary. So when you don't think about it, you just assume there's a boundary. There is one. It seems like there is one. So breathe into it. And then on the exhale, just explore it. Look very carefully with your awareness. Look for that dividing line. If there's a boundary, it would seem solid, substantial, unchanging, like a wall. So see if you can find that experience. You have to be able to tell the difference between a thought about your body and the actual experience. So look very carefully what you actually feel with your awareness. And you might feel a physical sensation or an energetic sensation. And when you do, on the next breath, you must go into it directly. What do you find? So another way to look at this is if there is a boundary there, then it must be different than what we regard as not the boundary. So for example, can you let your awareness move from this back edge of your body up into the space of the lower belly where we started? Let it move up and down or back and forth slowly, just investigating, and see, can you find any definitive difference between the boundary at the back and the space up front? or the space in the center? Is there an edge that you can label? And the point to these questions is not to find an answer, it's to help you look in a certain way. So I'm just guiding your attention. And then for this next step, it's important to take a very simple-minded attitude. Just follow the instruction without overthinking it. So now we'll go in the opposite direction. Go back to the boundary at the back of the body, or where we used to think there was a solid boundary. Just explore it for a few breaths. And then allow your awareness to move below it, down into the ground or into the floor, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 inches behind this boundary. And see, can you find any definitive separation? Or is it a similar experience in what we normally regard as outside the body? Just let your awareness move back and forth from the edge to the outside. And then you can let your awareness move even further. So moving from behind the body or beneath the body, through the edge and all the way up into the center of the lower belly. Going back and forth and scanning. Is there any real definition, any solid separation? Or does it feel more like an open space? Or like moving, glimmering, sparkling specks of energy? Or something beyond words, beyond description? You may notice a sense of ease that comes over the body as we open up this way. Could it be that letting go of our solid sense of self leads to this sense of ease, to a reduction in effort or reduction in stress? So just leaving that area momentarily, we'll move now to the heart space, and we do that by bringing our fingertips up to rest on the breastbone, if that's comfortable for you. And then we alter our breathing so that now on the inhale, it's not our belly that's moving so much, but the rib cage. We can almost imagine just breathing into the center of the chest. So inhaling, the rib cage expands, our chest rises. Exhaling, it releases, it sinks. And so we start by breathing in and feeling the outer edges of the chest and the mid-back and the sides. And on the exhale, softening, letting go. And then we move inwardly now, following the breath into the center, just above the spine and beneath the fingertips, into the energetic heart space. Letting our attention follow the breath in, and on the exhale, resting within that space and looking at the qualities there. Does it feel solid or open? Does it have a texture? Is there an emotion being born there? And then on the next exhale, looking again. And with areas like the heart, it's important to note that though on the first few breaths there might not be much experience at all, if you give it time and look openly and patiently, your experience of your body after time has passed, and after you've formed a relationship of listening to the body, even after a few breaths, the experience can be different. So don't take it for granted if at the beginning there seems to be nothing there. Don't be fooled. And so now let's let our attention drop down to the boundary of the middle back. The boundary we think exists between us and the ground beneath us, where we think the edge of our skin is the edge of our experience. So direct your breath into the region of the skin boundary, feeling the width of your back. And with each exhale, just feel it, look into it. What is the experience there? Can you find a solid separation? Sometimes when we look at the boundary this way, little sharp experiences or aches and pains might come up. Areas of tension might make themselves known. And so you can just breathe into those areas as they arise and just bring your awareness into them and see what happens as you do so. And now let your awareness gently move back and forth from the edge up into the center of the heart space. Again, looking, is there any separation? Is there any area of difference? Or is it more of an open field of experience? And now let your awareness descend beneath you. Again, seeing, is there any difference in the quality underneath your back and in where we perceive a separation? Sometimes in this practice, it might feel like these areas become like windows into space, that there's nothing there at all, or like our body is disappearing when we look in this way. And it's not that the body is disappearing, it's that the artificial, the conceptual body is disappearing. And instead we're dwelling in actuality, in what is, which is beyond conceptual understanding. It's beyond limits. So now to move to the throat center, if it's comfortable, we bring our hands to rest on the collarbones or the upper chest. And then we just imagine now that we're breathing into the area of the throat, at the base of the throat, the lower half of the neck. And again, just feeling the outer edges, the outer boundaries, even the upper chest, the collarbones, even feeling any tension in the neck and even up to the jaw. Feeling these areas on the inhale and on the exhale, softening, opening, allowing, feeling. And then now breathing with our intention more into the center of the throat space. And just look for that area, maybe a couple of inches above the collarbones. It may feel solid or emotional or energized. Whatever the experience is, it gives us a place to place our awareness. Breathe into it, feel, soften on the exhale. And then letting your awareness move behind the neck. Maybe just into the space above the floor, or even letting it move down further into the ground. Again, searching, is there any solid, existent boundary? And then to finish this practice, just let your awareness move back now toward the heart and down into the lower belly. In fact, let it pervade your whole torso and into the space that we used to think of as a boundary, and even a little bit behind it, down into the ground. Just explore that broad area and notice, without the thought of boundary, how we might actually feel more connected to the earth. And how that connection helps with a sense of ease that we might be feeling. There's something about experiencing this space and this connection that shows us how it's possible to be with whatever feelings, sensations, emotions, or thoughts that arise. That we have a strong foundation that is not shaken when these fleeting experiences arise and fall away. So now we'll take a break. You can keep doing this if you like. Otherwise, when everyone is back in sitting posture, we'll continue at that point. And if you go out in the hallway, please be quiet because there's a class in the other classroom. I see the blankets are all gone. Is anyone freezing? Should I turn up the heat? Okay. Your body might be non-existent, but you're not dead. Okay, so the sitting practice we do after what we just did relates to one more part of the body and establishing a sense of openness with the earth, and that's our perineum. So everyone knows where that is, right? Okay. So we just start by getting in a good posture. And now on the inhale, we're just breathing in a sense from all directions. We turn our attention to feeling the perineum. On the inhale, we can imagine, just like with the cellular breathing, that we're breathing into the center of that space, into the center of that tissue. And again, in the beginning, there's an idea that this is a boundary of our body, like the bottommost portion of our torso. But just breathe into it, and on the exhale, allow it to soften, open, feel what's there. What is the actual experience there? This part of our body that actually roots us to the earth when we're in sitting posture. As we move forward the next few weeks, this part of our body will be very important in the practices we do. So it's important to establish a relationship of experience with this part of our body. And then I'll just give one more instruction, and then I'll be silent for the rest of the night. And that instruction is, after you've established your awareness there, that you found it, and you're starting to look into the experience there, after a while, let your awareness open up through the bottom, where the boundary might be, beneath the perineum, and even in the space beneath it, into the ground underneath your cushion. So let your awareness expand in a way beneath your body, starting at the perineum and moving through the skin and beneath, and just exploring that space, or sometimes just resting in that sense of openness that you may discover in this part of the body. After a while, you may even be able to let go of the technique after you feel grounded. A sense of openness, perhaps a sense of stillness, but not necessarily. But certainly a sense of presence. We're present there, and in the presence itself, there's a sense of equanimity and stability. So see if you can explore that. And we'll do this for about 20-25 minutes. So, did everyone do okay with that? Any questions, comments? That last part was pretty simple, right? But it was kind of a nice experience. Hopefully that's a sense of stability and some stillness and increasing connection perhaps. As we move further into the next 6 weeks, we're going to be working with more and more subtle realms of experience. And so, like I do almost every week, I just want to encourage you to try and do this practice as much as you can during the week. You know, these 10 weeks of practices are something that my ongoing students might take a whole year at least to go through, and we're doing all these in 10 weeks. So what that means is simultaneously don't worry if you're not having a lot of experience, because these really need to be worked out over a long period of time. But also don't expect that just 10 weeks will take you to some extraordinary place. This is a sampler platter, so to speak. Though it can be a very profound one and it can have a deep effect on us in a short amount of time, it's really just the beginning. So that's just my encouragement to do it a bit during the week if you can. So, okay.
Find one that resonates with us more than others. Would we be doing ourselves a disservice if we focused more on one and not, sample from the whole planet?
You know, I think for someone in your position, maybe just go with your inspiration and see what you can discover with that. And after a period of time, you might see where you might need a different perspective or something else to fill out that experience or to answer questions that this practice that you like isn't answering for you. Now, someone who might come to me and say, I want to do this path in a more structured, formal, ongoing way, I might encourage them to go through it step by step. But even when someone is doing that, they have to decide for themselves when their life is calling them to a particular practice, and then maybe they step off of the structure and do what's really working for them, because there's something really happening there. Because this should not be a cookie cutter kind of approach, even though I do offer a cookie cutter. So, yeah, and that's great too, is if you choose one that you really like and go far with it, the advantage there is that from time to time you will have questions, and then we have something to talk about too, on a one-on-one basis. And then you go even deeper with that. So instead of doing a surface level thing on several practices, not much happens there. So, okay, well, I'll see you all next time.